Yep.
Are you going to keep track of if there are questions and let us know because we won't see them?
Da, da, da. Hello, everybody. Here, I'm going to see if we set the audio. Could you say some words?
Some words twice, some words 3 times, some words 4 times.
Can you put your headphones in and see if you can actually hear this? Or just turn your volume up?
Hello, Marco, Polo. Can you hear me? Is there anybody out
We're good?
there?
Intentionally set the microphone, and so I didn't know if it was auto microphoning or not. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
We're on our studio set.
In front of a live studio audience.
That's right. Of one.
This is where you should be applauding.
That's right.
The applause line should be, or sign should be on.
There we go. Yay.
Okay.
All right.
I'm just going to say right now, you'll have to forgive Rachel and I. We have been recording shit for...
Is that shit?
It's important
Very good
shit
things.
For the last 3 days. And having this circle of light shining in my eyes is... frankly, I'm over it. So, don't take it personally.
Don't take it personally. Okay, well, I have the announcements. Well, sir, hi, everybody. Whether you're at work still or isolating, thank you for being here. We are isolating, but we've all traveled at the same time. Yeah, thanks. That's what my dad does for the grandkids. We've all traveled together, and we all have our 14-day sort of quarantining. Happy to say none of us have had any symptoms. And we have just a few days left before we can feel like we're officially through our 14 days. But we're feeling good. We're all hand washing and all the things. Okay. We have a couple of upcoming webinars, so some free stuff that's happening. A lot of people are looking to still stay connected. We understand that being isolated can be crazy making. And so part of the way that we're trying to support everybody is by doing some live events that are free that you can sign up for. So there's one on Thursday, tomorrow. It's at 11 Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Mountain. That would be 8 a.m. Pacific. And that is...
You Central people don't matter.
Central. Okay, that's 10 o'clock Central. I mean, time zones are usually my kryptonite. So I was so proud
I
of
know,
myself.
you did a really good job.
But I got it right. I was so excited about that. Usually I'm all over. This isn't the thing. I'm really smart, but the time zone thing. Anyway, so I'm doing, Y-Space, which is our entrepreneurship program at York University in Toronto, is hosting invited me to speak at an event, first in a series I think they're doing about how do you be a leader in times of COVID-19, and mostly it's about how do you think about your people, how do you sort of balance empathy and accountability, the way so there's a big, I don't know if it's in Toronto or everywhere, but in Toronto specifically, there's a huge focus on mental health of entrepreneurs, because I guess they've had some kind of high profile suicides in the entrepreneur world up there. So they're focusing more on the empathy piece and how do you be empathetic during these times. So, but we're going to cover things like how do you think about your people, what's the most, how can you support them, what's the balance between checking in and micromanaging and all that kind of stuff. So we'll be talking about all that.
You should tell them that it's sold out
They made it bigger. Like an email this morning. We had that 100-seat webinar. It filled up really fast in a couple days, and so there is. They open it up to more seats. I don't know how many more, but if you sign up and register and you can't get on the Zoom, they're gonna stream it to YouTube Live, and they'll give you that information. Plus, if you sign up, they'll also send you the replay link. So either way, if you're interested, just go sign up, even if you can't attend, and that way you can get the replay link later, or the YouTube Live information. Let's see, Elevate Rapid City, that is our regional sort of group that does everything from economic development to chamber kind of work. Meg and I are both speaking to that group next week on a virtual seminar thing.
Maybe a Facebook Live.
Facebook Live.
From their page.
Cool. Yeah, figuring all this out still. Is that so anybody can attend on their page? Okay, so go to Elevate Rapid City Facebook page, and then we'll be streaming it live, I guess. I will be at 4 p.m. Mountain on the 1st, which is 5 p.m. Central, for all you Central people. And then Meg will be speaking on the 3rd at 3 p.m. Mountain. Meg will be speaking about balancing accountability and empathy during a crisis. I'll be speaking on effectively supporting your team for remote work. So we have been busy supporting clients. We've got lots of things going on, super fun. You want to tell them about Helix? Give them a little sneak peek?
Yeah.
Or sneak news or whatever?
Yeah, this is not fake news. We are, in fact, starting a portal, or have started, an actual web portal for our assessment, the culture type assessment, which we have, through a happy accident, discovered the name of Helix for the assessment tool. So Helix is slated to go live as a resource to us first on the back end of our business, and then eventually as a SaaS model. The go live date for that right now, anyways, the intended week to have that ready for our use is the week of May 11th. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it'll be really cool. I think what we're going to do, and we haven't really nailed down the plan, but probably everyone that's already taken the assessment will be putting in your coordinates of where you fall on the scatter plot. So it might be that you have an opportunity to create an account on that and see your results in that way. Because I think we're going to populate the back end with the results. So that might be something happening in May, so that should be fun. Let's see, the weekly quote is because stabilizers are reliable. Stabilizers. They tend to stick with projects until the very end. Once they commit to doing something, they follow through with it. And then our weekly writing prompt from our 2020 planner. None of the planner had anything about COVID quarantine in it. Hard to predict, but yeah, for your planner, you can put it in there. This seems like a good week to repeat our burn the bad and keep the good exercise. So write the good in your planner and write the bad on a piece of paper. So what we do there, or maybe you want to explain the burn the bad.
You burn it.
So yeah.
You write down the good things that are going on for you, or things that you're grateful for in your life. Maybe some goals that you have coming up for you.
Get out my gratitude journal.
Yeah. And then anything bad, any negative thoughts you have about yourself, or you've heard other people say, or you're worried other people think, or any kind of negative thoughts that you have about conflict, situations you're in, write that down on a different piece of paper, and then fold that bitch up and burn it. That's the only really great way to get those out of your mind. If you actively get rid of them, like physically in your hand. Well, don't burn it in your hand, because then you'll have to go to the hospital, and that won't be good.
You want to stay away from the hospital first.
So you should just burn it on the ground, somewhere safe,
outside,
not in your house.
It's very wet out, so it's a good day to do it. I actually went through this interesting exercise just yesterday or the day before, where I tried to write down, because I was feeling pretty anxious about all the COVID stuff, and poor Meg has had to put up with me being probably crankier than usual, because half my brain is
Oscar the Grouch.
Oscar the Grouch.
Oh, was that it?
Yeah, Oscar the Grouch. Yeah, crankier than usual, because half of my brain is spinning constantly on this stuff. And not that I know intellectually I can't do anything about it, but it still is sort of out there all the time. As my fixeriness, I want to go help people, and I can't right now. I'm trying to, for 14 days, I've been out of the house in public spaces maybe once in the last 10 days, so I'm going a little crazy, but trying to be respectful of people. But anyway, I actually wrote down the things that were worst case, worried about our business, worried about the economy. What does that mean if that happens? What am I really afraid of? And that was pretty insightful. So I think just writing it down and getting it out, I wrote some things and went, oh shit, I didn't think about that. So a lot of things I think are swirling in our brains that we don't actually even know are kind of lurking back there. So I think writing it down is really kind of dig into it a little bit, and I think that'll be really helpful, just for peace of mind, nothing else. Should we answer the one COVID question quick before
Sure.
we jump in? I think Susan asked, how do you minimize distractions? Does that seem right?
Yeah, how do you minimize distractions while you're trying to work from home? There was some other stuff in there, but that's the theme of it.
That's the gist.
Yep.
Well, Susan, Susan is a chaos person, which we had the conversation about. I'm not sure if she's a fixer or an independent. She hasn't taken the assessment, I don't think.
Independent.
She hasn't taken
She
it.
hasn't taken it.
But part of our challenge is, I mean, that's actually one of our big challenges generally. I'm a fixer, Meg's an independent. Meg is less chaotic than I am on the graph, but as a chaos person, it's very easy to get distracted. In fact, we kind of like that, to be distracted about things. So I would say that my best advice about working from home and dealing with distractions is that find a way, like decide what things are critical to get done, and find a very specific amount of time every day to do those things. Because like for me, if I have to write something that I cannot be distracted about, writing is about one of the only things we actually do that I can't be distracted around, then I have to set that time aside. Like I have to do it from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Thursdays or whatever the time may be. Because otherwise I'm like running around distracted trying to, oh yeah, I should do this, or oh, there's social media, or I should really post this thing on LinkedIn. And so I can constantly, my brain is constantly distracting myself, even if it's very calm around me. So I think maybe more what's digging into your questions a little bit is, or your question a little bit is, perhaps how do you find calmness or time in yourself, and because we can always find distraction any time of day. So I think if you have a schedule, we're not very good at schedules, but if you have like a routine that every morning you get up, you don't turn on anything, social media or email or whatever, and you do the thing you need doing every day, and you have that routine, I think that will really help. Because even though we're chaos tolerant, no schedule at all can still feel very stressful for us. I mean, I think most humans like some kind of expected schedule, at least at a high level. So I think that will really help. I think right now we're trying to do 1,000 things and our brain's thinking about 1,000 other things all at the same time, and it's hard to stay focused. So I would just pick a specific time every day.
One other way, and this is what I had to do a lot of learning about myself over a good period of time. I do, even though I'm more order tolerant, I think I like the freedom as an independent, a self-driven person to do whatever I want when I want to be doing it. So that's laundry, and then I'm going to get, something ready for dinner tonight, but I know I still have work to do, and I maybe want to work out, and I need to make sure I spend time with my kids. I have worked really hard to just not feel guilty about the things. So it seems like, and this is kind of in addition to Rachel's advice or built into it in the way I might not make a routine every day, but I put down a list of all the things that I need to do, and I don't feel bad about the order in which I do them. I do them in the order that feels natural. So even if some work thing is a priority, obviously if there's something that's a serious priority, do that first. But if there's something that, work should be, we all feel like, well, work should be a priority, just because I'm at home doesn't mean I'm on vacation. But if the going to get the laundry done or started is distracting you so much that you don't do your work well, what's the point in sitting there at your computer? Then you're on Facebook for 20 minutes, and then pretty soon you're drafting some, message to someone on LinkedIn, or you decided to start shopping, or you're going to go see if you can get a refund for those airplane tickets. But the thing you're supposed to be doing, because really, if you would have just gone and switched the laundry, your brain would say, okay, good, check that box, and let's move on. So I think there's something to be said for, as you build your routine, give yourself some grace. Don't feel guilty about if something is at the top of your mind, well, just go get it done, and then that's off of the list.
If that didn't quite answer your question, or there's something more specific, feel free to ask. Also, for those of you who are watching right now, if you have questions you didn't ask earlier, please put them in the comments, and Shelly will let us know.
Yes. I'm getting the questions.
Okay.
There are my kids jumping on the trampoline. That was PE.
PE, I saw that. That's great.
Oh, oops, here there. Okay.
These are all me, so.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about flat organizations. And so while this, in my mind, was feeling a little weird, like nobody's really caring about their organizations right now. Everyone's flat because they're all fucking by themselves. Oh, sorry. They're all by themselves.
15 lashes of the wet noodle, man. That was the ultimate rule.
I violated the F-bomb. Sorry, Shelly. She's giving me the mom look, like shame. For shame.
I can no longer post this on LinkedIn, but I'm going to anyways.
Oh, she thinks that LinkedIn has a higher standard, so don't worry about it. We don't.
The world is ending. It doesn't matter.
And it doesn't matter. That's right. So, but I think in the vein that we'll carry on with the normal topics is I think that if nothing else, we should take an opportunity to learn about things still and to use our intellects to understand how things work better, and when we all go back to work then we can use that knowledge for good. So I guess that feels like maybe the reason we should still be talking about things.
Somebody has to stop the panic. That's why I think we should
still
be talking about normal things.
Yeah.
Because in 3 weeks, when things start to settle uncomfortable, but it will start to settle into something.
As the thing evolves, whatever the curve looks like.
Yeah,
right?
We're all going to be like, oh shoot, we should have been thinking about
all the things.
Our lives. It's kind of like if you're working out and then you stop working out and then you start working out again in 3 weeks and you're like, why can't I work out so good? Why do I? Right. So we're still just exercising our brains.
That's right. We're going to keep doing it.
All right. So flat organizations. Do you want to tell what you don't know?
Yeah. So a flat organization tends to be, if you think about an org chart, like a family tree where you have like the grandpa and all the kids, and then they have their kids, and then they have their kids. That's an hierarchical organization, right? So you have lots of bosses. Like if you work down here, you have a boss who has a boss who has a boss who has a boss who has a boss, right? That's a more sort of traditional hierarchy. Flat organizations take that big long thing and flatten them out. So there's more people on the same level you can talk to. You tend to have more freedom to communicate across the levels. There's a lot fewer levels. So Elon Musk as an example, he has structure in his like Tesla, but he wants you down here to talk to anybody at anywhere in his org chart. So that's not really as flat, a true flat organization, but it does sort of flatten the communication structure.
Yeah, and the idea about a flat organization that has become made flattening out your organization attractive in the last, I would say, 15-ish years, is this idea that everyone has a voice in the company, and that one person could be in charge of several people instead of this person is in charge of these 3 people and this person these 3 people, and then it goes down here and down here. So it the idea is that it flattens out responsibility a little bit in the organization, and it creates more of an environment of we'll say respect. I say this with lots of question in my voice because I'm not sure if it's exactly the right way to do things. Hierarchies can become, another problem that was being solved for is hierarchies become too bureaucratic. Right. So someone who's down in the organization quite a ways, typically probably someone young or someone who just doesn't raise their hand very often and give their opinion, might have some really cool idea. But it has to go through their boss's boss, and by the time it gets to someone who can make a decision about the budget and the amount of time that's going to be dedicated to the idea, the opportunity is either already gone, or they say, or it never makes it there, or they say, oh, Joe couldn't possibly know how to do that thing because he's just down here in the organization. So it's really to break down some of that bureaucracy, invites a little bit more conversation, invites a little bit more innovation. So that's the idea. It also invites a little bit more chaos, I would argue.
Yeah, and it's kind of crippling to people who are more order tolerant, I think, because frankly, if you feel like you can talk to anybody else in the organization, then who's the right person to talk to is a problem. Is it someone who just didn't want to tackle the big problem of let's make sure our communication is good? So it's kind of like, well, we don't, sort of like the culture thing. We get a lot of people calling us to say, well, we have an accountability problem. Well, it's probably a culture problem or a leadership challenge, but they call it something else. This feels like a little bit like that to me. Like, well, communication change is hard, so we're just going to change the whole org structure. And so we see that a lot. It's time to reorg because something's not working. Well, instead of fixing that thing, you change it. So it can be pretty messy.
Okay, question. How can my knowledge of culture types help me be successful in a flat organization?
Well, I think that goes back to that the chaos, to your point about it's more chaotic. So I think if you're order tolerant, you're going to really struggle. But what order tolerant people can do that's really great is you can kind of create your sort of, stabilizers will want to create their own social organization within that flat organization. And organizers can probably navigate it pretty well because they're self-driven. So there's probably challenges, a little bit of challenge for each type. I guess maybe independents would thrive the most because they're chaotic and self-driven.
Yeah, I think the use of culture types to understand people through a flat organization is best utilized by, if you know your culture type, you know what you can tolerate great or what you love and what you don't love, and then you can kind of manage that for yourself. In working with other people, and especially if you're a leader in a company, knowing those things about the people who work for you will really help you understand why the stabilizer's asking so many questions and the fixer's not doing anything. That's the thing that causes anxiety for leaders, is got okay with all of this, and another person who is completely freaking out. So I think that the nice thing about understanding culture types is that you can pay attention to people's behaviors based on their culture type, and then you can say, oh yeah, that's why the organizer is asking some questions, and then they go away and I don't ever hear from them again. They're actually still working. It's just they got their questions answered, so they're gone. The independent, is off probably doing their own thing too. And fixers and stabilizers have created some sort of social fabric and laying it out over all of their people and are happily working in little groups. I think the danger associated with the blind spots, I guess, as it were, for each culture type is, knowing what pieces they'll take advantage of. Independents and organizers will likely take advantage of the fact that if it's a flat organization and there's one person to pay attention to 20 people, they're going to go hide in their office, maybe not show up to meetings, and then they might be more likely to get away with it because there's one person to 20 instead of one person to 5. Fixers and stabilizers might with their little social network that they create, start a hell of a gossip chain. So be paying attention to that. And fixers might go off causing more firestorms than they fix because they're fixing this and fixing that, and they're creating this and creating that, and nobody's really making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So I would say those are kind of the...
Yeah, and I think a lot of flat organizations too are that way because they want to provide more independence to people doing work. So if you think about one that jumps to mind is it's a sort of nonprofit that supports a lot of different aspects in the community. So they have one person as the executive director, and then they have literally one lead for all the different divisions, and so but they don't report to anybody. Everyone reports to the director. So her perspective is, I trust them to do whatever they want and to do the things they need to do. So in that organization, the independents and the fixers are going to be like, woohoo, now tell me what to do. And the stabilizers and the organizers are going to be a little frustrated with the lack of sort of direction or at least planning. So I think if that's what's going on, then I think you have slightly different challenges too. So, but being aware of culture types is going to help you navigate no matter really what is going on there. So you can't scroll up on the pictures.
Yeah, I guess not. This one we already answered. Okay. Why would a company choose to operate as a flat organization? So we talked about that. How have you helped flat organizations address challenges? How have we helped?
How have we helped? Who has been flat? One of the things that's pretty flat are things like legal and finance that have a partner structure. because a lot of those folks are partners and staff.
Yeah, or small businesses.
And small businesses,
So
right? That's
the
true.
Virginia company that you just were working
Right,
with.
that's very flat. Yeah, they've tried to not be flat, but it's pretty flat.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think that seems like that's one of the big challenges for smaller companies is to be not so flat. That just reminded me of like a middle school girl's chest. Not so flat.
So,
Okay.
I haven't been flat for a while.
Yeah, me neither. So a lot of smaller businesses, startups, or companies under, say, 100 people, their challenge is that they're trying not to be so flat, because a lot of times what will happen is you have somebody who's in charge of safety and HR, or accounting and HR, or operations and accounting, and all of those people, if there was one person for every one of those roles, they would all be working together. It's really hard for one person to hold two of those roles, because there's always a conflict of interest between, the objectives, or how we get there, what I need to have happen in my department to be successful. And so I think that we've helped a lot of organizations that are smaller and that have to operate more flatly. Flatly? Is that how you'd say it? Flatly.
I think so.
Yeah. Flatter. More flatter.
No, just flatter. Operate. Flatter?
More flatter. Flatly.
I think flatly is
Because
right.
operate is the verb.
Yeah,
So it'd be
I think
flatly.
it is flatly, adverb.
My sister, my teacher's sister would be so proud of us for sorting that out right now. I hope she's watching. To help smaller companies operate more, or operate well, as they have to operate flatly.
There you go. That's
That's
good job.
Yeah.
Another thing, so think about flat organizations and think about how do you be less flat. One of the biggest values about thinking about that is that one of the things we find with our CEOs is that because they are the one and then they have everybody under them and everyone's kind of reporting into them, the hard part is that then they are completely locked into everyone and how they're doing and trying to, depending on your culture type, of course, but like a fixer leader, our Virginia client, he's trying to make everybody happy all the time. Like, oh, this person needs this. Oh God, this independent needs that. Oh God, this stabilizer needs that. And he pretty soon, he just wants to people leave him the frick alone. Like not in a bad way, but just like, you stop copying me on every email was one of the things I just heard recently, right? Because you feel like because you're the guy or the woman, you in some ways you want to be involved with everything because it's probably your baby and you developed it from nothing and all that. But after a certain time, or like in a stressful time right now, when you want to be thinking about how do I support all of our clients during this time when my team might be home and they might be home and they're freaking out, and my team's free. Like, he has no bandwidth to address this sort of weird critical moment in his business because he's too busy trying to fix every problem and everyone's copying him on every email. So he really needs to find a way to get a little space, and in doing that, identify a project manager maybe, or identify a lead of this group of people, and that way hopefully he can empower them to do more without him being involved. So that's a real trap of having a super flat organization, is that you are involved in everything, but you are involved in everything, I guess, is the trap.
And that is overwhelming.
It's the good and the trap, right? So.
And I think, I was just thinking about this while you were talking about that example. Right now, with what we've got going on with all the social distancing, I think organically our organizations, or the way we communicate, will have become flatter. Because if you think about a lot of conversations that happen in your office, in our office, for example, if Rachel and I are talking about something, and we have a very open office, but even if you have an office with a hallway and everybody's got a door, I worked there in that place like that once, I could hear everything, which is great because I was the HR person. But if Rachel and I are having a conversation about something and Shelly picks something up out of that conversation and she says, oh, okay, so you guys are doing a speaking event, what day is it so I can get it on the calendar? That's important for her to know, and we may have forgotten to tell her at some point. So just because of the way you are in an office around each other, our kind of everyday communication is a little flat in that sense because we hear things that other people are saying. So in order to kind of mimic that appropriately through emails, so that the CEOs who are in a flat organization, or whoever, the independents who don't want to get all the emails, or the fixers who aren't going to read all the emails, in order for it to make sense, it might be really a good idea that when you send an email out, if you feel inclined that, listen, the whole team needs to know about this, maybe you send it to the person who needs to know or respond to whatever your request is, and then you CC everyone else, and then in the body of the email you might say something like, Rachel, I need you to tell me A, B, and C. Shelley, I just CC'd you here so you could see the conversation. So it's important to kind of think about how those conversations happen organically in the office and mimic that in your emails so you don't drive people crazy, because our email system will now have kind of flattened out, I think, in a way, because everybody's working remotely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the other tricky thing too about the communication is that you also, I think you're right, because I was talking with a group of CEOs, that the C-Suite Network, or maybe it was the Hero Club last Friday. I was kind of talking about how important it was to be connecting and how video should be your new phone, to connect with your people. And Jeff Hazlett said, oh, I'm so glad you said that, because I haven't seen one of our team members on part of a video meeting yet this week. I need to make sure that we invite her to one. And so you're starting to see people thinking about, okay, well, let's invite everybody to this video call so everybody feels like they're connected. So I think you are going to see some more flattening of that just from that perspective. Mm-hmm. Or the CEO is going to talk, and so maybe you have 3 layers in between you and the CEO, but everyone gets invited to the video call now. Normally you never get invited to the boardroom, but because everyone's home and they want to address you, then maybe you'll get a chance to be a part of that. So, interesting.
Okay, last question. What are the advantages and disadvantages of a flat organization? And I feel like maybe we kind of talked about that.
So talked about that.
I think we're good.
The advantages of now being invited to the CEO Zoom webinar is that you can ask a question directly to that person and maybe get a good idea out there, or a concern, or something like that. It's flat organizations, you do have the ear of people that are typically higher up in an organization that you normally wouldn't get to talk to. So that is a real benefit, is that if you are lower down on the org chart or in middle management, you actually have a lot more access to the people that are actually making day-to-day decisions, which, use that to your advantage if you have a concern or an idea. Other things we want to say?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm done saying.
Yeah, you seem like you're ready. We've been saying a lot of things.
We've been saying all of the things.
Well, I guess the thing that we should say at the end here is the reason we've been saying things for 2.5 days is that we are refreshing the Rose Group Academy, which has about 45 videos on it, and it goes through...
That's right, 45. You're welcome.
Yeah, it's insanity. But it's important. And so what we've done is we've basically walked through how we would train, or if we're going into an executive team, and we walk through kind of the what we consider valuable out of the book. And I mean, the book is 360 pages, so we clearly aren't touching everything in the book, but we're kind of we're telling stories about what we've learned over the last couple of years since the book came out, is when we first did the academy. We have a lot of stories to share that really sort of can cover the information out of the book. And I think so it's for online learning, so it's for people who want to learn more about what we do and how we do it. Some people get certified, which is called IX Ambassador Facilitator, so IXAF. And then so that's kind of what we're refreshing now that we're home and not traveling all over the US and Canada delivering keynotes and working with clients right now. We have lots of time in the office, so we decided to take a couple days to do that.
Yeah. So if you want more information about how to access Rose Group Academy, what the different price points are, there are different sets of information, different price points. You get a copy of the book if you sign up. So if you already have one, then you have a gift for somebody already at Christmas time or Easter. That's the next holiday.
Easter's coming up.
So definitely let us know if you'd like more information. You can find information on our website, and you can also email Shelley, and she will tell you all of the things.
All the things. And then we'll be announcing the Helix launch here, in a couple months, which seems like a long ways away. Well, it's like 6 weeks, 7 weeks. Seems like a long ways away right now, but it might feel like a long ways if we're all isolated until then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something to look forward to from your laptop anyway. So
Yeah. All right, lead powerfully.
change the world. Bye,
Bye.
everybody. It's good to see you. You got it? The magic buttons.
Oh, low power mode. Good thing that didn't shut off. Finish.
There you go.